This is Devitt. We're here at New Way Air Bearings to do a little demonstration on restriction in the providing of vacuum to our conveyor systems. So focusing on the blower system, you see the blower is drawing air through our little artificial restriction system. Notice that the end of the pipe is open. So the reason for this is that you don't want to deadhead a blower. A blower needs to breathe or it'll get hot. So in all cases, when you're using a blower like this, you want to have a significant percentage of free flow or flow into the blower. You don't want to deadhead a blower like that. There's another reason. When you have an open aperture like this, it's a lot easier to avoid pressure changes in your system. So here is the manometer, the end of the manometer, and here is a restrictor. This hole right here is meant to represent the vacuum holes that are in the air-bearing conveyors. So having a look at the manometer, you can see we've got about 2 inches of water pressure. Right? Even though this end is open to atmosphere, it's almost a Bernoulli effect that's going on here. But we're just using a small amount of the pressure that's being generated by the blower. So as I put my finger on, or maybe Jim will put his finger on there, and we'll look to see if we can see the columns change. Okay, finger on, finger off. So you can see that there's very little change. There we go. Okay, finger on, finger off. So there's very little change in pressure. That would represent the glass coming on. Go ahead, do it one more time, Jim. Right? Glass is on the conveyor array. Glass is off the conveyor array. All right. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to add some restriction to the system. Go ahead, Jim. Let's replace that. So we pop one out. The other one in. Now, most people wouldn't think that this is a big system changer, but notice how the size of the pipe goes from like a 1-inch diameter ID pipe to something that's more like a 1/4-inch ID. Okay, so now when we go, we'll see, first of all, that we don't have nearly the vacuum that we had before. We've got more like 1 inch of vacuum pressure because of the restriction. And now go ahead, Jim, put your finger over it. So now glass is present. Wow, look at the big change in water pressure. All right, Jim, finger on. Okay, finger on. You see the column change, finger off. So one of the things we want to try to avoid is changes in water pressure. So you can see how this restriction causes a bigger change in pressure than we'd like. Now let's go ahead and add even more restriction to the system. You see there's this coil of tube that we've got here. So that's just basically a big restriction. So here he has just added the tube, maybe 20 yards or something of tubing to the system, but we still have the same draw here. Well, now you can see that there's almost no vacuum pressure where the glass would be on the conveyors. So now that would be right here. So this is what's representative of the holes in the conveyor. Go ahead, Jim, put your finger over that. Now you can see even a bigger change in the manometer column of water. So the more restriction you have between your blower and the face of the conveyors, the bigger the change in pressure that you'll have. So the object of all this is when you're designing the system, you don't want to have restriction between the blower and the holes in the face of the conveyor. You need to have a big aperture so the blower is breathing, getting some air, and then we use a relatively small portion of that flow, and that way you can have the glass present or the glass not present and have a very small change in pressure in the system.